Hello YTPC, Ethan, Parsimonious Piper here. Today we've got some more morsels for mental manducation. But first, in a 3-star rusticated pipe by Lee Bulldog, I am smoking some Mac Baron HH, Bold, Kentucky. Absolutely delicious stuff. First up, for those of you who are supporters of the Black Lives Matter movement, you may be interested to know one of its co-founders just purchased a $1.5 million home in a neighborhood in California that is 88% white, 1.5% black. Just saying. "60 Minutes has beclowned itself again. They ran an interview with Republican Florida Governor DeSantis that can only be charitably described as a deliberate hit piece. Now, the portions of the interview that they aired were deliberately and deceptively edited to make it appear as though DeSantis and his administration were guilty of a pay-to-play scandal. What they left on the cutting room floor was a lengthy stretch of video in which the governor described exactly how and why the decision was made for the state to use the Publix grocery stores' pharmacies to distribute the COVID vaccine. Very deceptive. Quite deliberate. It's really a shame because there was a time, it's been a couple decades at this point, but there was a time when 60 Minutes was a reliable news source. Last week, as we discussed before, Major League Baseball announced that it was pulling its All-Star game out of Georgia in protest over the terribly racist voter ID law. This week they announced that they were moving the All-Star game to Denver, Colorado. Colorado has stricter voter ID laws than Georgia just enacted. In addition to that, they've moved approximately $100 million of revenue from a majority black city, Atlanta, to Denver, which is around 90% white. The lack of self-awareness, well, I gotta say, it's actually kind of amusing. Let's see if I can get this lit. It is a breezy day, and we're back and lit. In Oklahoma this last week, Black Lives Matter protesters demanded the firing and prosecution of police officers who shot and killed a black man. Never mind that the deceased was an inmate in the county jail, and at the time of the shooting, he was holding a knife to the throat of a corrections officer who he had forced to kneel in front of him. Facts don't matter. In a related case, just last night, rioters and protesters, I use the term protesters very loosely here, destroyed 4 businesses, a Walmart, a Foot Locker, a New York clothing store, I don't remember the 4th one. In Minneapolis, again in protest of police shooting and killing a black man. Never mind that the man in question had been pulled over for a traffic stop, and the officers were attempting to execute outstanding warrants to arrest him. Now, Many people don't understand. The police in many jurisdictions do in fact have the authority to fire on a fleeing suspect, particularly if an attempt at arrest has been made and there are already outstanding warrants. If the situation turns out to justify the danger that this person may pose to the community at large. We don't know at this point whether this shooting was justified. But the riots and the protests are happening anyway. This really isn't about justice. It is not about making sure that the law is upheld. No reaction yet or response from what I've seen from Black Lives Matter leaders on how destroying businesses and jobs has anything to do with policing, or how that will change anything except removing businesses from areas that do in fact serve black people. Now, a note that I made here, something that almost all of these cases have in common, is that the deceased were actively resisting arrest at the time that they were killed by police. Now, as a lily white gun owner, one of the things that has been told to me in virtually every training class that I have ever taken is this: comply with the police instructions, even if you don't think they're right or fair. You have a much higher probability of surviving the incident. And if your civil rights have been violated, there will be lawyers lining up to represent you against the police. These gentlemen would in fact still be alive if they had not resisted arrest. Just something to ponder. One of our favorite left-leaning retail outlets, Target, is selling a book by a white female associate professor of practical theology, in which she pens a prayer for God to help her hate black people. No, you're right. The races are actually reversed. But can you even imagine a book being sold by a white person who said that about black people? To date, Target has not commented, and last I looked, the book was still available. Target won't comment, but I will. It is true. There is racism in our country. But it's not coming from the sources that the left would have you believe. Last, my state of North Carolina. The Lost Colony theater production will no longer hire white actors to portray indigenous American peoples in their play, in the interest of authenticity. So my question is, will you now screen the white actors that you hire to play the other roles to make sure that they're actually of English descent and not Scandinavian or Slavic? Because that wouldn't be very authentic. Alternately, will you be protesting the production of Hamilton? Now with that, folks, it's a beautiful day. Light something you like. And I love this bold Kentucky. Enjoy your afternoon.